So hello again, I am Leslie B. Avance, and now continuing with the multimedia design principles. Now, earlier we talked about multimedia principle, that's the first one. Second would be the coherence principle. No, um, multimedia design suggests that we can use not just one element or one material to create our design. We could also use multiple, and then followed by coherence principle, where we should really be careful. It suggests that we only choose, or we only combine um, what complements each other. No, it's we should not overload information, and we should always be on point on what we show. So yeah, principle number 3 now is signaling, and principle number 4 is redundancy. Now, signaling principle. Now, it says here, introduce cues to emphasize crucial information, spotlight key points. This also suggests being on point, but now it's about being on point on what you um, visually present to people. Now, for example, here it says adhere to the principle of KISS, which stands for keep it short and simple. So yan. So ayan, how do we apply this third principle? It says here, emphasize key points with arrows, callouts, highlights, or bold text. No, when you see bold, for example, this one I with also the previous slides that I've shown you. No, you can highlight all of these words that you think are a must be remembered words, must remember words, because those that's how you create emphasis, no, to the words that you really want the audience to remember. For example, in signaling principle, it says here that you can use arrows, you can highlight, you can make the text bold in order for your audience to think that, oh, there's emphasis in here that must be really very important. No, so yeah, that's a signaling. Although it also has a lot of other ways to present how signaling principle works. Now, for example, although our example here is just to show, what's important, in text. No, you can also not limit it. You cannot just limit it to just visual presentation alone. Although I've said earlier that it's about visual, but when it comes to voiceovers or narrations, signaling also happens um, when you use your voice, when you add something to your tone. No, for example, you read something and you go high, or your tone changes in the middle. No, that's where you want to emphasize the information, and that's where you want the audiences to remember. No, that's also signaling in narration. No, just the most important word there is emphasis. Whether you emphasize a certain text, to tell that it's very important to remember, you can also put emphasis in your voice when you speak about the word, or when you speak the word, or you speak the sentence. No, that's there are different type of signaling when it comes to multimedia design. Here is a very simple explanation, a very simple illustration of how you can put emphasis. No, I underlined vapor, no, because integrated in this concept of evaporation in the water cycle. No, there's an important word, which is vapor, for your audience to see it immediately, before they actually read this, or like comprehend the visual, the graphics. At least they know that this vapor word, the word vapor is a very important concept, or very important aspect of evaporation. Before they've read all of this, at least they know that this underlined word holds something very important in the whole message of this slide. Yeah. So next would be redundancy principle. It says here, we learn better with words and graphics together. Don't repeat the same information in different formats at once. So ayan, very very connected to the previous principles then, no? You become on point, but but you can become on point with the previous principles, but with here the redundancy principle, no, it's very it became really very strict with how they emphasize that do not repeat, no, two elements at once, no. Now, how do we apply this third principle? First step, we use either graphics or text to complement spoken presentations. Never use both at the same time. No, I think it's a common mistake to a lot of presenters. Now that they read from the slides. No, even teachers. No, even personally, I make mistakes. I make the same mistakes sometimes. No, but is this principle suggests that we can instead of using text, no, when we try to narrate it, no, at least we should not use text on the slides. We can use graphics or images, and then we could narrate instead of putting text on the slides, and then we are also reading it and narrating it at the same time. Next step, minimize the use of on-screen text in narrated presentations. Instead, focus on images or graphics. Now, just like what I have stated earlier, no, that there are a lot of times there are a lot of common mistakes among presenters that they read from the slides. No, this principle suggests that we could go away from that typical way of presentation of doing presentations. We could use, instead of text, we could use graphics, and then we could or images, and then we could narrate accompanied a narration accompanying the graphics on the screen. Here is an example. Now this slide, I've shown you words, I've shown you also graphics, and then I would tell you, when the sun shines on water in rivers, lakes, or the ocean, it makes the water turn into tiny invisible water particles called vapor. Now, although it's a very short one, it's still a redundancy because I've read from the slide. So my narration and then the text is it's just basically saying similar things. So instead of doing this or putting the text in here and I plan to narrate it, I could just use the graphics, and then I could narrate this information, so the audiences didn't have to read or like comprehend it even more, no, while also listening to what I'm saying, which is basically the same, thing. Some people believe that that kind of delivering information is very good to know. It would seem that it would support the information of the information of the other, no, but this principle suggests otherwise. No, the redundancy effect happens when the same information is presented in several ways, no, which actually impedes learning as opposed to helping it. No, it's like I've been saying this time, no, na instead na dumadali yung pagtanggap natin ng information, mas humihirap kasi mas dumadami yung kailangan natin i-comprehend, no, which is suggested by this principle na wag sanang ganon. We could use one. If there are four elements, four ways to present the elements, just choose one, no, and then choose what the best company or best matches the element that we use.